Hi there, gang. This is the report of our activities up until the July meeting in 2013. I'm just going to cover some of the highlights. The written report will have more detail on all of our strategic initiatives, but I want to cover four main highlights of some things that have been going on around here. It's been another busy month, and so much is being accomplished. It's just pretty heartening to see how far we're coming, how fast. So let me just start and dive in. The very first thing that I want to share with you guys is that it's becoming clear out of all of our major efforts that there are some themes that are crossing all of those. And one of those big themes, whether we're talking about our funding partnerships, our faculty development work, the work that's going on with the communities that we're building for specifically right now consultants between Twitter and Facebook. The theme that's crossing over all of those is a theme of invitation and participation and people being in relationship with each other. It's interesting that's what's coming up in all of those conversations, whether it's funding, whether it's faculty, that it's not about what we're doing, it's about people being in relationship in funding partnerships, being in relationship in the faculty development, which has been a huge conversation. And let me just talk about that one specifically. In the faculty development area, and the area of developing communities of consultants, whether that's on Twitter through NPCons, whether that's through Facebook. We're realizing that it all sort of runs together, communities of consultants and developing faculty. We really have moved in the past several meetings from how do we select which faculty are qualified to the question of how do we invite people to participate and then create the conditions to prepare them to teach in a way that creates the conditions for others to learn. So if we want students to learn, to be their very best selves, our instructors have to create the conditions for students to be able to step into that. And we, as Creating the Future, need to create the conditions for our instructors to be their best selves within that. The result is really turning into an experiment in both the development of the faculty and the qualities and the proficiencies that we're looking for, and the process by which we find faculty that's a fit, as well as the facilitators of the communities, which is really sort of the same, facilitators and instructors. That it becomes faculty development as an inclusive invitation for us to all be our best selves in relationship to each other. And what we're finding is that the more we talk about the faculty, instead of a faculty selection process, a faculty preparation process, we invite you to be part of the faculty, to be one of our instructors. And we invite you and we want to prepare you to be the very best that you can be. What we're finding, what we're realizing is that people will probably self-select. We don't have to say, you don't fit. They will feel, this isn't for me, or they'll feel, oh my gosh, this is where I want to be. And so that's one of the most exciting things that we've come to, and we're finding it in the funding discussions as well. We're at the very beginning, obviously, of these funding discussions. We've had 2 of those conversations so far. And they've been amazing. Thank you to Alexandra and to Sydney from the board, and thank you to Phil Cubetta and to Deborah Jacobs, who are not on our board, for participating in the conversations and just exploring, again, what does partnership in funding look like if we're really talking about that relationship? And again, it's how do we bring out the best selves of everybody at the table rather than that an inclusive versus exclusive. We're the ones with the money, you're the ones who are asking for it. So it's just been a very life-affirming exercise in all of those cases. And it's really a theme that's running through everything, that if Creating the Future is an invitation for people to be their best selves, and we're creating the conditions for that to happen. That's a very cool way for us to run our programs. And we're not saying by any means that we know what that means. In practice, we know that each of these is going to be an experiment. What does that look like when you're developing faculty? What does it look like when you're developing funding relationships? And so that's pretty exciting as a learning lab and a living lab to experiment with what does it mean to bring our best selves to those relationships. The second thing that I want to talk to you about is demonstration projects. One I mentioned in an earlier report, I believe last month, that we're really starting to look at what does it look like if what Dimitri and I are doing right here in Tucson isn't just, well, this is what our office is, and creating the future helps place-based efforts in other places. What if we focus on our home as a place-based organization? And what we're starting to do some investigation in several different places, but it's becoming very clear that the whole concept of place-based, it's hard to say, place-based centers for creating the future, that the exciting part of that is that an entire region could accomplish the mission. I mean, and that's really exciting to us. Think about what it would be like if if we accomplished our mission in an entire region. If we hit the tipping point where the practices that we know create change, that create people living well together, if we know that those practices are ubiquitous in an entire region, what would that make possible? I mean, it's mind-blowing to think about it. We've been having conversations, starting to have conversations here in Tucson, but we're also having conversations in several other communities around the US and heading up to Canada, where we're going to be having a lot of these conversations in Southern Ontario. And that brings me into the other part of, so it sort of segues into one of the other topics. But the whole thought that instead of just doing a couple of workshops in a community, that we create a demonstration project of what it looks like if an entire region is functioning according to the Pollyanna principles. So that's pretty exciting for us. The third thing that I want to talk about is our trip to Canada. We'll be leaving, we will be in Canada for the board meeting in July. This is our first regional effort as Creating the Future. And we have been invited there by 4 of our practitioners, our graduates, our fellows, depending on what language we settle on there. We're going to be convening conversations in 4 different communities in Southern Ontario, in Hamilton, in Guelph, in London, and Toronto, over 10 days at the beginning of July. And really the outcomes that we're looking for in those communities is to start a different conversation. And the indicators we're going to be looking for is social media, is in communities, the folks that are inviting us in, really listening for an elevation of a different conversation in those communities. So we're just very, very excited about that. And again, talking about place-based, it's going to be really exciting to see what happens, not just in one community, but in all 4 of those communities, and see if there's some synergies that can develop there. The last thing that I wanted to share with you is that we have begun having operations team meetings. There is so much going on, and it's not just Dimitri and me doing it. As you guys know, our practitioners and our community are really gathering around to move some of these initiatives forward. Gail and Nancy are pushing forward on the faculty development. Nancy and Jane and Kevin are really pushing forward on the community building piece. There's a lot of different initiatives going on that at the center of them, Gail and Nancy tend to be really taking leadership roles in all of those and moving them forward. And so Gail and Nancy and Dimitri and I have been meeting every other week as an operations team. And it's really been immensely helpful. We're all coordinating. We're actually talking to each other and finding out what's going on as one is supposed to when one has so many plates spinning. So I just wanted to share with you that it is a step towards our building programs towards the future, all before we even ramp up. So pretty exciting stuff. We're immensely grateful to everybody that has been volunteering and meeting week after week and month after month on all of these initiatives. And and bringing some of the most brilliant thinking. If you guys have a chance, go to the Walking the Talk blog, for example, and click on the category of faculty development and listen to any of those conversations. It really is pretty amazing the brilliance that everybody is bringing to that, and we're just very appreciative. So that's really it for the report. Like I said, there's going to be much more detail in the written report, but wanted to just give you guys some highlights about our trip to Canada, about our looking at place-based initiatives, about our operations team, and most importantly about this whole theme that what we're about is creating an environment that invites people to their best selves in whichever place that is, whether it's funding or faculty development or whatever it is. So we will see you at the board meeting, and thanks for all that you guys do. Bye-bye.